Before we start, I want to say that only 1% of you are subscribed. Please subscribe because when we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will post a special video for you. Alex gazed into the night sky, the chill of the evening barely noticeable as he adjusted the settings on his backyard telescope. He was searching for something new, something that all the expensive government-funded telescopes had missed. His friend, Mike, nursing a warm mug of coffee, chuckled softly beside him. "Still chasing shadows, Alex?" Mike asked, a teasing lilt in his voice. "Not shadows, my friend. I'm chasing lights," Alex replied, his eyes never leaving the eyepiece. "One of these days, I'm going to find something that'll make all this worth it." Just then, a flicker on his laptop screen caught his attention. "Mike, come take a look at this," Alex said, stepping back from the telescope. "What is it?" "I think I've got something unusual here. The patterns don't match any satellite or known celestial body movements." Mike set down his coffee and leaned over the laptop. The screen displayed a series of graphs and numbers that made little sense to him, but Alex's excitement was contagious. "What do we do now?" Mike asked. "First, we verify the coordinates, then we track it for consistency. If it's real, we might just have an unidentified flying object passing through," Alex explained as he began recalibrating his equipment. As the two friends adjusted the telescope, the small, quiet night was shattered by a brilliant light cascading from the sky. It was not the harsh glare of a meteorite, but a slow, pulsating glow descending toward the earth. Both men stumbled backward, shielding their eyes. "What in the world?" Mike gasped. The light settled in a nearby clearing, illuminating the ground with a soft, otherworldly glow. Heart racing, Alex grabbed a flashlight. "Let's go see," he urged. "Are you out of your mind? What if it's dangerous?" Mike protested, but curiosity overpowered his caution, and he followed. Approaching the light, they found an object that was unmistakably not human-made. It was sleek and smooth, with no seams or joints, glowing with a gentle blue light. Suddenly, a section of the object shifted, forming a doorway, and a figure stepped out. She was tall, humanoid, with shimmering skin that seemed to reflect the moonlight. Her eyes were wide and luminous, observing Alex and Mike with an unfathomable expression. "Hello," she said, her voice melodic and strange. "I am Lyra, from the star system you call Epsilon Eridani. I mean you no harm." Mike gawked, speechless, but Alex took a tentative step forward. "I'm Alex, and this is Mike. Welcome to Earth, Lyra. How can we assist you?" "I am here to learn," Lyra replied. "Your planet is known for its rich biodiversity and complex emotional expressions. I wish to understand human reproduction." Alex and Mike exchanged bewildered looks, but Alex replied, "We can certainly talk about that, but perhaps we should start with something simpler?" Lyra nodded. "Of course. I am eager to learn in whatever capacity you are willing to teach." Mike finally found his voice. "Well, then, let's start with a tour of our planet from our perspective. You're in for quite the experience." Lyra smiled, a gesture so human yet so alien, that both men relaxed slightly. "I am prepared," she said. "Lead the way." As they walked back towards the house, the night felt less chilly, and the stars seemed a little brighter. Alex couldn't help but think that this night would change his life forever. As the first light of dawn crept across the horizon, Alex, Mike, and Lyra sat around the kitchen table, an array of human breakfast foods laid out before them. Lyra observed each item with keen interest, her eyes lingering on a plate of scrambled eggs and bacon. "What is this?" Lyra asked, pointing at the eggs. "That's scrambled eggs," Alex explained. "It's a common breakfast food here. Would you like to try some?" "Yes, please," Lyra responded, her voice filled with curiosity. Mike passed her the plate, and she cautiously took a bite. Her face was impassive at first, then brightened. "It's very flavorful. What is it made from?" "Eggs are laid by a bird we call a chicken," Alex said. "We eat quite a few things that come from animals on Earth." "Fascinating," Lyra murmured, taking another bite. With breakfast underway, Alex decided it was a good moment to delve deeper into their visitor's purpose. "Lyra, you mentioned last night that you're here to learn about human reproduction. Is there a particular reason why your people are interested in that?" Lyra set down her fork, considering her words carefully. My people are very advanced in many ways, but we have lost the ability to connect emotionally. We reproduce through cloning. My mission is to understand if incorporating human reproductive methods might help us regain some emotional depth. Mike raised an eyebrow. You mean, you guys don't fall in love? Not in the way you do, Lyra replied. We see it as an ancient and inefficient method. However, observing Earth has suggested we may be missing something vital. That's one way to put it, Mike chuckled. Love can be pretty messy, but it's definitely worth it. I would like to understand this messiness, Lyra said earnestly. Alex smiled. Well, you've come to the right place. Earth has more than enough emotion to go around. What do you want to see first? I wish to observe human interactions in various environments, Lyra answered. Where do humans gather? Mike thought for a moment. How about we take you to a mall? It's a little early, but it'll get busy soon. People shop, eat, socialize. It's a good place to observe a lot of different human behaviors. Lyra nodded. That would be suitable. After breakfast, the trio headed to the local mall. Lyra's presence, though striking, didn't seem to draw undue attention. Her appearance was human enough at a glance, but her graceful, deliberate movements marked her as different. As they walked through the mall, Lyra observed everything from couples holding hands to families managing unruly children. She asked countless questions. Why does that child resist the adult's guidance? That's just what kids do, Mike said with a grin. They're testing boundaries, learning about the world, and those two. Lyra pointed at a young couple, their heads close together, laughing. They're probably in a relationship, Alex explained. Sharing a private joke, maybe planning their day. It's all part of building a connection. Lyra recorded everything in a small device she carried. This is fascinating. So much variety in interactions. They spent the morning at the mall, and as lunch approached, they decided to show Lyra another human custom, eating out. At a small Italian restaurant, Lyra continued her questions, now focused on food and its role in human culture. Alex and Mike shared stories of family meals and holiday traditions. As the day progressed, it was clear that Lyra was compiling a detailed picture of human life. But beyond her mission, something subtle shifted in her demeanor. An emerging warmth as she engaged more freely, laughing at Mike's jokes and asking more personal questions about their lives. Thank you for this day, Lyra said as they drove home. I have learned much about your ways. We're just getting started, Alex replied, glancing in the rearview mirror at their extraordinary guest. There's a lot more to see. And as they returned home, Alex realized that Lyra wasn't just teaching them about her world. She was also bringing a new sense of wonder to theirs. Late in the evening, after a long day of human observations, Lyra, Alex, and Mike sat in the living room surrounded by notebooks, digital devices, and half-drunk cups of coffee. The dim light of the lamp cast shadows around the room, giving it a cozy, almost secretive atmosphere. Alex looked at Lyra, who had been unusually quiet. Did today raise any particular questions about humans for you? He asked. Lyra tilted her head slightly, her gaze thoughtful. Yes, many. But there is one thing that particularly puzzles me. You showed me many aspects of human interactions, but not the one called love in its physical form. Is it not also part of your emotional connections? Mike coughed, almost choking on his coffee. Well, that's a bit more private than shopping or eating out. Lyra nodded. I understand it is private, but to fully comprehend human emotion and reproduction, I would like to learn about it too. Could you teach me? Alex exchanged a glance with Mike, who shrugged slightly, signaling that he was leaving this one up to Alex. Reproduction, or making love, as we more commonly refer to it, encompasses a lot of personal and emotional aspects. Alex started carefully. It's not just a physical act. It's about connection, emotion, and intimacy. I see. On my planet, intimacy is not practiced. It was deemed inefficient and distracting. However, observing your interactions today, the concept intrigues me, Lyra explained. It's a big part of what makes us human, Mike added. It's messy, beautiful, and complex. Lyra's eyes sparkled with curiosity. How does it begin? What initiates such interaction? Alex cleared his throat. Well, it usually starts with mutual attraction and consent. Everything is based on the willingness of both parties. For example, something as simple as a kiss can be a way to express interest and affection. Could you show me what a kiss is? Lyra asked earnestly. Alex paused, sensing the importance of the moment. Yes, I think I can do that. But you must understand, it's a very personal gesture. I understand, Lyra replied, her voice steady. Alex leaned over slightly, his heart racing with a mix of professional obligation and personal embarrassment. He gently pressed his lips to Lyra's forehead, a safe, non-romantic kiss. That's a very mild form of a kiss. It's often used to show affection in a non-romantic context. Lyra touched her forehead lightly, processing the new experience. In a romantic one? Is it different? It is, Alex confirmed. It involves the lips and is generally more intimate. Lyra considered this. I see. Is it too much to ask to observe such a kiss? Not now, but perhaps in a controlled setting. Mike laughed nervously. You're really diving into the deep end of human culture, aren't you? I need to understand all aspects if I am to bring this knowledge back to my people, Lyra replied. Alex nodded slowly. Okay, we can arrange something educational. We'll need to think about how best to do this respectfully and sensibly. Thank you, Alex, Mike. I appreciate your willingness to help me learn, Lyra said, her tone grateful. As long as it's all in the name of science and cultural exchange, Mike added with a slight grin. As the night drew on, they continued discussing various aspects of human relationships and emotions, each conversation helping Lyra piece together the complex puzzle of human intimacy. Alex and Mike, though initially uncomfortable, began to see the value in sharing their human experiences, realizing they were not just teaching Lyra about humanity, but also rediscovering the nuances of their own nature. After their conversation about human intimacy, Alex, Mike, and Lyra decided to dedicate the following day to exploring more about human emotional and physical connections. As they gathered in Alex's study the next morning, the mood was a mix of anticipation and a hint of nervousness. So, we talked about starting with the basics. Alex began, checking his notes. Physical touch, comfort, and personal space are foundational to understanding deeper forms of human intimacy. Lyra nodded, her eyes keen. Yes, I am ready to learn. How do we proceed? Well, Mike interjected. Why don't we start with something simple like dancing? It's a good way to show how people share space and touch in a friendly, non-threatening way. That sounds appropriate, Lyra agreed. Alex set up his laptop and played a soft melody. This is slow dancing. It's usually done to slower music, and it's quite common at weddings or romantic settings. Mike stood up, offering his hand to Lyra. May I have this dance? Lyra took his hand, and Mike led her gently into a basic dance hold. Put your hand on my shoulder, and I'll put mine on your waist. We'll move slowly with the music. As the music played, they moved around the room in gentle, swaying motions. Lyra followed Mike's lead, her movements initially stiff but gradually becoming smoother. This is nice, Lyra remarked, looking into Mike's eyes. I can see how this could be comforting. It's about feeling the music and the connection with the person you're with, Mike explained, as they continued to dance. After the song ended, Alex clapped lightly. Nicely done. Dancing can also escalate into more intimate forms, but it always depends on mutual feelings and consent. Lyra considered this. Consent is crucial, then, in all forms of physical interaction? Absolutely, Alex replied. It's fundamental. Everyone involved needs to feel comfortable and agreeable to what's happening. The morning progressed with them teaching Lyra other forms of touch, like handshakes, hugs, and the cultural context behind them. Each gesture opened up more questions and discussions about personal and cultural boundaries. As lunch approached, Alex proposed a shift in their lesson plan. Let's take a break from the physical and talk about verbal and nonverbal cues people use to show their interest or affection. They sat down with sandwiches that Mike had made, and Alex began discussing the subtleties of human communication. For example, a smile can mean many things, but combined with eye contact, it's often a sign of interest or pleasure. Lyra listened intently, occasionally mimicking the expressions Alex described. And these expressions are universal? Not always, Mike said, taking a bite of his sandwich. Cultural context is important. What's acceptable in one culture might be seen differently in another. The conversation shifted to discussing flirting techniques, compliments, and the importance of timing and context in initiating romantic advances. Lyra was quick to understand. So, timing, context, and consent form the foundation of initiating romantic interactions. It's quite complex. Yes, and every individual reacts differently, Alex added. You have to be attentive and responsive to the other person's feelings and signals. The day concluded with a discussion on emotional intelligence and its role in human relationships. Lyra's understanding of human intimacy deepened, appreciating its complexity and the emotional depth required. As they cleaned up after their meal, Lyra thanked them. Thank you both for being so open and patient. I feel I am beginning to understand not just the actions but the emotions behind them. You're welcome, Lyra, Alex replied. It's not every day we get to teach this to someone so eager to learn, and so different, Mike added with a smile. It's been enlightening for us too. The day ended with a deeper sense of connection among them, and Lyra's mission to understand human intimacy was well underway. The following day brought a fresh opportunity for Alex, Mike, and Lyra to explore yet another dimension of human interaction. They decided to delve into the subtleties of seduction and romantic engagement, a topic that piqued Lyra's curiosity even further. In the cozy ambience of Alex's living room, with soft jazz music playing in the background, the friends gathered around a low coffee table laden with snacks and drinks. Seduction isn't just about the physical aspect, Alex began, pouring out some wine for himself and Mike. It's also about creating an atmosphere, using words, gestures, and expressions to convey interest and attraction. Lyra, holding a glass of water, listened intently. Is the atmosphere always important? Mike nodded. Absolutely. It sets the mood and can significantly affect how romantic advances are perceived. Something as simple as the right music or lighting can make a big difference. To show you what we mean, Alex said, standing up, let's try something a bit theatrical. Imagine this setting as the stage for a romantic dinner. Alex dimmed the lights slightly and lit a couple of candles, placing them on the table. The flickering light cast a warm glow over their faces. This is lovely, Lyra remarked, observing the changes. Now, let's add conversation, Mike suggested. He adopted a slightly deeper, smoother tone. Imagine I'm trying to impress you. I might start with a compliment that feels personal, like, you have the most fascinating eyes. They sparkle like the stars above. Lyra blinked, a slight flush visible on her cheeks. And I would respond? Honestly, and with whatever you feel, Alex encouraged. A typical response might be a thank you, or if you're also interested, a compliment in return. Thank you, Mike. You are very kind to say so, Lyra tried, her voice carrying a mimicry of human emotion. Notice how her body language changed. Alex pointed out to Mike. She leaned in slightly, which is a sign she's engaged in the conversation. They continued this role play, with Mike and Alex alternating in showing how to express interest through body language, choice of words, and maintaining eye contact. Now, touching, Alex said after a while. It should be subtle and always welcomed by the other person. Something like this. He reached out slowly and brushed a piece of lint off Mike's shoulder, a gesture that was intimate yet respectful. Lyra observed every detail, her eyes sharp. It's a dance of sorts, isn't it? Each person responding to and leading in turn. Exactly, Mike said, smiling. It's a dance of mutual respect and interest. As the evening progressed, they discussed how relationships could evolve from these initial moments of seduction to deeper, more meaningful connections. Each step forward should be agreed upon by both parties, Alex stressed. Communication is key. I understand better now, Lyra said, her tone appreciative. The complexity of human interactions is profound. Your emotions are deeply interwoven with your communications. Yes, they are, Alex agreed. And understanding those emotions can be as important as any words spoken. As the lesson ended, they sat back, the room quiet except for the soft jazz still playing. Lyra's gaze was distant, contemplative. Thank you both, she finally said. This has been an incredibly enlightening evening. Mike raised his glass, a playful glint in his eye. Here's to many more lessons, though maybe next time. We'll explore something simpler, like sports or music. Lyra laughed, a sound that was becoming more warm and human with each passing day. I would like that very much. The chapter closed on a note of camaraderie and mutual understanding, with each friend contemplating the intricate dance of human relationships, fascinated by the layers they each revealed. The new day dawned clear and bright, perfect for the next step in Lyra's exploration of human culture. Today's agenda was focused on deepening emotional intimacy, a natural progression from the previous day's lessons on seduction. Alex and Mike decided to introduce Lyra to the concept of emotional vulnerability, a key component in building strong personal relationships among humans. They chose a quiet setting in Alex's backyard garden, under the shade of a large oak tree, to create a calm and private atmosphere. As we talked about physical touch and initial attraction, Alex began, setting the tone. Today we're going to talk about what comes after that. Sharing personal stories and feelings to deepen the connection. Mike nodded, sipping his coffee. It's about letting someone else see parts of you that you don't usually show the world. It's trust building. Lyra sat cross-legged, absorbing every word. How is this trust established? Through honesty and openness, Alex replied. He glanced at Mike, who nodded, signaling his readiness to dive into deeper waters. Let me start, Mike said, his voice softening. When I was 20, I lost my father unexpectedly. It was a tough time, and I struggled a lot. Sharing that pain with someone I'm close to isn't easy, but it helps to build understanding and closeness. Lyra listened intently, her expression somber. I see. Sharing pain is a form of bonding. Yes, it is, Alex added. And it's not just about sharing the tough times, but also the joys and dreams. For instance, I've always dreamed of starting my own observatory. It's a big part of who I am. And sharing that dream is me sharing a part of my future hopes with someone. The conversation flowed, with each man taking turns to share something personal. They explained how each shared experience could bring people closer together and make relationships stronger. Lyra took a deep breath before speaking. On Epsilon Eridani, we do not share personal dreams or pains. Everything is collective for the advancement of society. I have never considered what I alone dream of. Alex smiled gently. Maybe it's time you start. What would you dream of, Lyra, if you could? The question hung in the air, and for a moment, Lyra looked lost in thought. I would dream of seeing more of the universe, understanding other lives like yours. This mission has opened my eyes to possibilities I had not allowed myself to consider. That's a beautiful dream, Mike said warmly. And by sharing it, you've just let us see a little more of who you are. Lyra's face lit up with a realization. This is a powerful bond. I feel a closer connection with both of you now than I did when we first met. That's exactly what happens with humans too, Alex noted. The more we share, the closer we feel. They spent the rest of the morning discussing how to express empathy and support when someone shares their feelings, practicing with each other. Lyra was quick to learn, her responses growing more intuitive. As the session wrapped up, Mike stretched and laughed. You know, I didn't expect teaching someone about human feelings would make me revisit so many of my own. It's been a good reminder of how complex and rich our emotional lives are. Alex agreed, packing up the last of their snacks. Lyra stood, looking between her two human friends. Thank you for trusting me with your stories. I will cherish this knowledge and the feelings it has stirred within me. As they walked back to the house, the air felt lighter, and their steps were buoyant with the satisfaction of meaningful connections made and shared. The lesson had not only taught Lyra about human emotions, but also reminded Alex and Mike of the beauty inherent in their own complexity. After days filled with discussions and practical lessons on human interaction, Alex, Mike, and Lyra convened in Alex's study to reflect on all they had explored. The room, with its walls lined with books and celestial charts, offered a scholarly backdrop to their conversation, hinting at the gravity of their discourse. Lyra, having assimilated a wealth of human experiences, initiated the discussion. I have learned much about your ways of communication and bonding. It's far more complex and nuanced than I anticipated. Alex, leaning back in his chair, nodded. It's one thing to know about these practices academically, but another to feel them. How do you feel about everything you've learned so far? I am overwhelmed, but in a positive way, Lyra responded. Each lesson has not only added to my understanding of human interactions, but also opened up new realms of feelings within me. I did not expect to be so deeply affected. Mike, fiddling with a pin, added, It's interesting to see how our normal is so fascinating to someone who's never experienced it. Makes you appreciate what you've got. Exactly, Alex agreed. But I'm curious, Lyra, how do you think this will impact your people? Do you think they'll be receptive to these concepts? Lyra paused, considering her answer. It is uncertain. My people value efficiency and logic above all. The emotions and personal connections you cherish are seen as relics of our past, unnecessary in our current society. However, I believe these lessons could help us regain something precious that we've lost. The conversation then turned to the practical applications of what Lyra had learned. Mike suggested, maybe you could start small. Introduce concepts gradually, see how they're received before pushing for bigger changes. That is a wise approach, Lyra acknowledged. Perhaps starting with the importance of personal space and privacy, concepts we do not hold in high regard currently. Alex smiled, pleased with Lyra's thoughtful planning. You've got a unique challenge ahead of you, but it sounds like you're up for it. I am, thanks to your guidance, Lyra said, her tone sincere. I must also decide how to present this knowledge, not just as data, but as a narrative that will resonate with my people. That's the heart of it, Alex said. People connect with stories, not just facts. Maybe frame it as a journey of discovery, similar to your experience here. Mike, looking inspired, leaned forward. You could use your personal transformation as a case study. Show them not just what you learned about us, but how it changed you. Lyra considered this for a moment, then nodded slowly. A personal approach could indeed be more impactful. I will take everything back as both a scientific report and a personal testament. As the evening wound down, they reviewed everything Lyra would take back to her planet. Notes, recordings, and now, a new strategy to present her findings. Alex stood up, stretching. Well, I think this calls for a little celebration. You've done incredible work here, Lyra. I agree, Mike said, heading towards the kitchen. Let me whip up something special for us to mark this occasion. As Mike disappeared into the kitchen, Lyra turned to Alex. I am grateful for all the kindness and patience you have shown me. This experience has been transformative. Alex smiled warmly. It's been our pleasure, Lyra. We've learned a lot from you as well. It's not every day you get to help someone introduce emotion back to their entire species. Lyra laughed, a sound full of genuine human warmth. And it's not every day one discovers what it means to truly connect with others. I will not forget this. Together, they moved to the living room, ready to enjoy their final evening together, filled with good food, laughter, and a shared appreciation for the deep connections they had forged, a fitting end to a profound journey of discovery. The morning of Lyra's departure arrived all too quickly for Alex and Mike. They had grown accustomed to her presence in their home, her curious questions, and her eagerness to learn about human nature. Now, as they gathered their things to drive her to the location where her ship would pick her up, a somber mood settled over the group. In the car, nobody spoke for the first few minutes, each lost in their thoughts, until Lyra broke the silence. I am taking more than just knowledge back with me. I am taking memories that I will cherish forever. Alex glanced at her through the rearview mirror, a sad smile on his face. We're going to miss you, Lyra. You've become a part of our lives in a very short time. Mike nodded, turning around slightly to face her from the passenger seat. Yeah, who's going to ask us a million questions at breakfast now? Lyra chuckled, her tone light but tinged with sadness. I will think of you both whenever I see your star from my planet. This experience has changed me in ways I could not have predicted. As they arrived at the clearing where Lyra first landed, her ship was already waiting, its presence almost ethereal in the quiet of the morning. They got out of the car, and the reality of the farewell seemed to hit them all at once. Before I go, I have something for each of you, Lyra said, reaching into a small bag she had brought with her. She handed Alex a small, metallic-looking stone. This is a fragment of my home world. Keep it as a reminder that there is always more to learn, more to discover. For Mike, she pulled out a similar stone, Only it shimmered slightly when light hit it. And for you, Mike, to remind you to always ask questions, no matter how simple or complex. Mike took the stone, his usual joking demeanor replaced by a more serious one. Thank you, Lyra. I'll treasure this. Alex looked at the stone in his hand, feeling its cool, smooth surface. We've got something for you, too. He handed her a small book. It's a collection of photos and notes from your time here, and some of our favorite scientific theories and formulas. A mix of human knowledge and memories. Lyra took the book, flipping through it briefly, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I will study this and remember our times together with fondness. It's time, came a voice from the ship, gentle yet commanding. Lyra nodded, then turned to Alex and Mike, hugging each one tightly. Thank you for everything. I hope to see you again one day. We hope so too, Alex replied, his voice thick with emotion. And maybe next time you can bring some of your people along, Mike added, managing a weak smile. That would be a sight to see, Lyra agreed, stepping back. She walked toward her ship, then turned around one last time, waving. Goodbye, my friends. Goodbye, Lyra, they called out as she disappeared into the light of the ship, which quietly lifted off the ground and soared into the sky, leaving a quiet stillness in its wake. Alex and Mike stood watching until the ship was just a speck in the morning sky. As they turned to leave, Mike put his arm around Alex's shoulders. Come on, let's go home. We've got a lot to talk about, and hey, the observatory won't build itself. Alex nodded, feeling the weight of the stone in his pocket. Yeah, let's get to it. We've got our own future to build, inspired by someone from halfway across the universe. They walked back to the car, the early morning light casting long shadows on the ground, their spirits lifted by the thoughts of new projects and the lasting impact of their interstellar friendship. The end of this chapter was just the beginning of many more to come.